Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup is a whisper. Conversations open doors. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing. Every thought becomes so clear. From the stations and bubbling streams, waking up to brand new dreams. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup is a whisper. Conversation.
Happy Saturday, happy Valentine's Day, guys. Good morning. It is 6 a.m., 6:05 to be exact, on the Pacific Coast. I am Melissa Houston, the cultivator of dreams, motivator of human capital. And what that means is I help people like you figure out what they want to be when they grow up and get a plan together. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We are either going to track it or we're going to tolerate it. And that applies to so many facets of life. Every facet, everything, right? We're either going to pay attention to what's happening, figure out if we're, enjoying this process or not, and then getting a plan to either maintain it or to let it come and go as it pleases, right? And so really just open-ended conversation here. I have a few things I want to cover as far as just what my perspective is and how this applies, in my opinion, as a life coach, as a business consultant, as somebody who has been working in sales and marketing and leadership development for decades. I just thought it would be a great conversation to have. The other thing is maybe today you're not as happy as some of these other people who seem to be just sharing hearts and flowers and roses and all the good stuff. That's okay too. It's the perfect time to pick up a pen and figure out what you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, and what you want to change about it. So Good morning. If we have not met before, I would love for you to go to documenthenact.com. You can learn a little bit more about me, read some testimonials, look over the services, figure out who I am talking to you this morning. Another thing you can do, if you would please, is go over and subscribe on my YouTube channel. It is Document Then Act. Shocking. Over on YouTube, right? So Document Then Act. Everywhere you can find me. So please go subscribe. If LinkedIn starts glitching, it is a place you can go and still get the feed, still have something to dive into. And also, I'm going to start repurposing some shorts from my events. I have been gathering them in the background for quite some time, and YouTube is where they're going to be hosted. So if you want some of that content, if you miss some of the shows, if you don't want to really watch everything on playback, that would be a really good place to go. So before I move on, I also just want to say, if you enjoy the show, have enjoyed the show, want to send a little gift my way, this is the perfect way to do it. Buy Me a Coffee is a place where you can just send me a little bit of coffee my way for hosting this event. All right, let's get started. Okay, I'm really excited to get moving. I want to say hello to some of my friends in the comments before we go on. I am seeing Felipe. Good morning. Aaron Gibson, of course, who does my intro, or who did my intro. I love it. Felipe commented that it is perfect for me, and I agree. It is everything that I wanted it to be in a bottle. It's got a good vibe, and we get going pretty quick. Good morning, Charles Phillips. I see you here. Aaron, good. Thank you so much. $10 headphones, guys. You don't got to do a lot to get there. LinkedIn user, I'm not sure. Oh, I know who it is. I know who this is. I was like, that's a hello. Who is it? And then omelet. That is my friend Charles Graham. He worked with me at Expert Background Solutions, and he was always my alarm clock to tell me, hey, you need to get your omelet in, because hangry Melissa is not a fun Melissa. It's just not. But there are ways to prevent it. This is one of those things we actually tracked. If I didn't have an omelet by 10 a.m., 11 a.m., I was a little frustrated. Something about that low protein level in Melissa's body does not do well. And so, good morning, sir. And then Ken Dunner. I love this so much. He's always, not as early as me. He doesn't have to be, but he also invites me to my own show. And I think that's so sweet of him. All right. Now let me get back into this, right? Comments are going away. Where am I at? Here we go. First things first. If it's repeating, it's not random, it's worth recording. Now, guys, I'm going to give you a little hint. There's going to be a theme to some of these slides today. And so this is kind of a little seed I'm planting in your brain, but there's some repetition that's going to happen in these slides. And the reason I want you to do it is it really is as easy as stop, pause, then go, right? It's red light, green light. When life is going well, we're on that green light. We're just floating along. We're cruising. We're doing our thing. But when it isn't, we have to slow down, right? When we start seeing the yellow light turn on, where we're not really comfortable with where we are in life, it's a really good time to assess, right? If I see a yellow light coming, my question is, do I have enough time to stop, or should I keep going? And then something about repetition is, if you see it over and over again, something that happens at 9 a.m., if you don't have an omelet, if you see yourself behaving a certain way at a certain time of month, it could be when the bills are due. It could be, if you're like me and a girl, there's some of these hormone things that rotate. But also as a man, did you know your body has hormones too? And maybe you have cycles that you're not aware of. Some people sync to the full moon, and, they act a little different. It's not random if it happens every month. And you don't know if it happens every month until you see the behavior start building, right? And so if you're seeing something where you're like, wow, this feels like deja vu, or wait, I just went through this last time, why does this keep happening? If you get a flat tire on the same street, I bet you're going to change streets. So I really want you to think about that. If it's repeating, if it's not random, then it's worth recording, right? Anything that I see more than one time starts to become repetitious. Repetitious becomes a pattern in my brain. And it could be a short pattern. It could be a long pattern. It is really up to us to figure out as we go, right? You're not stuck. You need an action plan. Confusion lacks documentation. And again, red, yellow, green. I hope you're picking it up now. What's confusing you? If you had to write down what in your life you can't solve for, okay, blank piece of paper, you're just writing things down. Maybe it's your budget. Maybe it's relationship. Maybe it's career. Maybe it's the math problem on your fourth grader's homework that they're looking at you going, I don't know how. And you look at them and say, I don't know how either. Right? Understanding you don't know how is a really big step to figuring out the next step. A lot of people will just stare at the page and not even approach it. They're just looking at it going, man, that looks daunting. And they're stuck in the process of starting. They're looking at it, their pen's in their hand. They're ready to do the work. They said they were going to sit down and do it. But as soon as those numbers, as soon as that, the words, the text, the email, whatever it is that got you going, that you needed to do the work, as soon as it's in front of you and you really have to start diving in, it can be really intimidating. It often reminds me of when you're a little kid and you know your mom piled those peas on high and you're not a big fan of the peas and you know you're not leaving the table till they're done. But man, why did she have to give me 5,000 peas? I could have been okay with like 5. I can either start chewing those peas or I can sit there and stare at them. And I can promise you, the longer you stare at a problem, it doesn't improve the situation necessarily. Sometimes it does. Maybe if you're looking at a problem at dawn, if you wait a half an hour, you'll have better light. Maybe you can see the problem a little bit more clearly at that time. Or the peas got cold and now they're twice as bad. You got twice the problem. Same thing can happen with a budget. Poor communication within your work or home. Poor planning. If you just go, quarter of a mile off track over the course of an hour, small shifts, a little left turn here, another little right turn. We're just zigzagging. We're moving, right? Because traffic is forcing us to make those decisions to get off course. After a while, though, those small changes, small, tiny pieces over time take you miles away from where you thought you were going. Are you with me? Let me look at these comments. Look, good morning, Sajith Kumar. Thank you so much for joining. He says you need a 5-minute break after every 60 minutes and water break after every 30. Now, I'll be honest, I am going to be fasting during the show unless my throat gets so dry that I cannot speak. I have to go without water for the next 2 hours because my bladder does not like it when I don't. It's a science and human body reacts to the environment. It is. You have to decide assess how you're feeling and then decide how to act. When I sit in a sauna, I panic. I don't like the feeling. I don't like humid air. I don't want to breathe liquid. I don't want to sweat before I sweat. I don't want it. I'm from Arizona. It's a dry heat. I don't want to do the Florida thing on purpose, right? No. But there are others whose happiest moment is when they get in the sauna and release whatever it is that it's releasing. They love to sweat it out. That doesn't make it bad just because one doesn't like it and the other does. It means that you need to figure out for you what your body is doing in the moment. Are you really getting the ROI? If it's supposed to be relaxation and I'm panicking because I can't take a deep breath that feels cool, that's not fun. It's having the opposite effect, and maybe I shouldn't have to put up with it, right? Felipe says I can't solve for the things I can't control, which we need to accept. And honestly, I've heard this my whole life with a mom as an addict, right? The first thing is admitting you have a problem, and then you work through the things you cannot control. It's part of AA's opening. The only thing I really know about AA was their opening, right? And so realizing that applies to every aspect in life. Nobody has a crutch or a bad habit or something that they turn to without first having problems that they needed to relieve themselves from. It is the Band-Aid effect. We can always numb the pain. We can always use Orajel on a bad tooth. We can always put a Band-Aid on a cut. We can always have a tourniquet for something worse. It doesn't mean it's a permanent solution. And the longer we let that solution sit in place, the more of a problem it can become. All right, let's get going here. Planning is the key to get to your destination. I love that. What does this say here? Saunas are amazing. Yeah. See, again, Felipe, you enjoy that. I will be outside with my iced tea looking at you with my fan going, just hot for you. And Ken says my bladder is well trained. I'm usually good, but I get so excited in these shows, guys. But let's be honest. When were you stuck in your life? Think about that time where you had no idea what was happening. And then all of a sudden, that handy dandy syllabus showed up. Somebody came from a front office and gave you a checklist. Your mom sat down and said, here's your chore list. Maybe it was something bigger. I don't know. Your tax person saying, here are the things we're going to need you to bring, right? As soon as you have a plan, you can get moving. When you have a plan, you get less confused. When you go into a grocery store knowing you need milk, eggs, and cheese, you go right to the dairy section. If you don't remember what you need, you might walk every section and inadvertently end up with more than you needed, spending more than you wanted, and still forgetting the milk, eggs, and cheese because you didn't actually drift to the dairy section. You got distracted right around the corner from it. If you have a checklist, you can double check your math. You're never confused if you did it all before you leave because you have a way to know. And it's simple stuff, guys. It seems really hard until you break it down into that thing. But it's because using elementary education concepts is not something I did just for funsies. I did it because we all went to school. Majority. I'm speaking to Americans here. I'm on a global platform, but there was this elementary education concept in the public school system in the country I'm raised in, right? And we had pretty basic concepts of what all of us needed to know to advance to the next level. Every teacher who taught in those classrooms was given a syllabus by somebody above them. That syllabus was then broken down into pieces for us, and it was given to us. Then we knew what to do. They even were kind enough to give us reminders. You guys, your spelling homework is handed out on Monday. The test is on Friday. Wednesday, you hear the teacher, make sure you're writing your spelling words. Maybe they told you to write them 3 times, 5 times a night. Whatever it was, there was repetition, there was direction, there was a plan, and there was accountability. You were trained in the educational institution to need those things, to look for those things, to want those things, to be able to move forward. And the gift that I have harnessed is that I learned how to make a syllabus when one didn't exist. Having been in a system where I was a little bit neurospicy, not diagnosed at all, but definitely showing signs on the report card and in behaviors, I needed to figure out how to learn without a plan. Their plan didn't work for me. They could give me the plan. The plan for me was I should remember to read the plan, right? And to bring in my family on the plan. And I was second grade. It wasn't working. But I was still accountable for the results. My mom was not going to stop holding me accountable. So how did I do better? I figured out ways. I figured out ways to do the work while the teacher was still teaching because there was something about it. If I was listening to her while she was speaking, I was focused. I wasn't actually focused, right? I was multitasking in a way where I was just distracted enough about the topic to stay on topic, but not actually drift like some of those spicy kids might do. And so looking back on my childhood, looking into my teenage years, the way I dealt with my spiciness in my youth, elementary school, I caught a lot of crap. I got in a lot of trouble because I was still trying to figure out how to do it. By junior high and high school, I understood that I did better outside of the classroom with headphones on. As long as I had music or television, something I could slightly ignore, I would do better on my focus. I was able to push through, and I was reading the text in my textbook alone with my music on more successfully than anything we were doing in the classroom, because a lot of times we only had a little bit of space for a section of the reading. I had to go and read the whole thing to answer the question, right? I didn't get the classroom time because I wasn't focused in there, or I would ditch the class completely if I'm being honest. And then I would need to go home, sit down, anchor in, because I was not a fan of the punishment. Even then, I wasn't stuck. I found a way to work around it. My confusion was, I'm not sure how to do this in the classroom, but I absolutely knew I was not confused on the fact that it had to be done. And so I found a way to do it. And the best way I could do it was alone in my room after school with the music up. What about you guys? Do you have like a special way when you're stuck, you get moving again? Is there something that you learned about yourself early on in your career or in school that helped you go from not being able to move forward on an assignment to being able to get accountable and get going? Was it a teammate? Was it telling your parents, hey, make sure this is what I do? Was it something else? Did you just fail to do it? Be honest. I had some of those days too. It wasn't always perfection, and I'm never claiming it will be. But what you do not track feels normal. Unproductive meetings, missed commitments, drained energy. It all becomes something that we can sense. We've heard it in office space. Oh, does somebody have a case of the Mondays? Right? Monday has this marketing appeal of wet trash. Like, it's just, a lot of people don't look forward to it. It is the worst marketed day ever. And why? It's usually because people are having unproductive meetings. They miss commitments. They're drained from the weekend. They didn't plan appropriately. Or Mondays just overall seem to always stink. Do you know anybody who knows it's just going to be a bad day because it's Monday? Just 100%. Nope, it's Monday. The whole day's done. The name alone did it for me. There is a reason they feel that way. And I'm not picking on them for feeling that way, but I'm asking what has happened in their life that made Monday such a bad day all the time. Because when I'm having a bad Monday, it's because I had a really wild Sunday. Or I had a really lazy Sunday and I didn't prepare. It could have been something like, I forgot to do the laundry I needed to do for this week, and now the clothing item I need is not ready. It could be, I forgot to get gas last night and I'm running late on a Monday morning because I overslept because I was busy this weekend and I didn't get the rest I needed. I was camping and we were doing great things and mountain climbing, but now my body's exhausted and I didn't realize how tired I would be this morning. So now not only are you late, but you have to stop for gas. You missed that meeting because you didn't have gas to get there. You want to talk about a drain on energy. If you were tired to start, imagine how you must feel after that kind of start to your day, let alone the conversation you get to have with the person you missed the meeting with, or your boss, or your colleagues. It can quickly take away from your energy bank account. If every one of those things cost you a little bit of energy, and I don't know about you guys, drop it in the comments. Are you a gamer kid? Did you grow up like me on consoles of all sizes? Because imagine on Friday, you're just running with this sonic energy. You're in sales. You're excited. You close 4 contracts today. You're going. The client's excited because you're excited. Everybody's happy. And then all of a sudden, Monday comes. That same client gets on the phone. They're like, what happened to Bob? What, is that the same Bob? That's not the Bob that was here Friday, was it? No way. And I've had conversations like this. I've had people in meetings who knew me because they had seen me 4, 5, 6 times before they said yes to a meeting with the group to sign up with us. And the person invited into that meeting we've been trying to gather, locked in that energy first time. They couldn't even remember what he looked like, but they remembered his energy. Come Monday, that same person did a follow-up because somebody forgot to attach something. We needed one more piece of paper, addendum B, whatever it was, right? And when he called, that energy was different, completely different. What is it going to cost him if that's true every week with clients that they're onboarding? What if they're like, wow, he didn't make it 48 hours before he's completely different than the person we thought we're signing up with? What happens in 6 months? I would ask the question as somebody who does a lot of business to business work. I've done vendor management. You can tell a lot about people by the onboarding process and how well that works. So repetition becomes routine unless you change the plan. And it can be a green light thing. You can have that morning run at 5 a.m. You can be intentional and see the sunrise, or you can get that repetition that takes Bob's favorite new clients to, I'm not sure about Bob. There are behaviors in your life right now that are making you not do yesterday's to-do list. Everybody in the comments, think about what you meant to do yesterday. Did you do it? Be honest. Say, yes, I accomplished my to-do list, or no, I didn't get it all done. 50-50 is still a win in a lot of ways, right? Unless you fall on the side you didn't mean to. And then, well, that stinks. The ball's in somebody else's hands at that point. By the way, way to go, Seahawks. You have to figure out what that looks like for you and how much of it is okay to not complete. I give myself grace. I'm allowed to not finish all of my to-do list. This is something that I have done through the years because I used to kick myself. I kicked myself so much for not getting everything done in a day. But I'm also a person who has their phone ring like the fire department. When somebody calls me, it's pretty important. Sometimes it's not as important as just checking up, but also important to check up. There are people who just need that every day. I am one of those people who like to check in. It's accountability. I give different people different things I'm accountable for, and I will call them about it, and I check in. If you don't check in, there might be something off. And if I have somebody, because I know Melissa overall, 99% of the time, mindset coach has her stuff together. However, there are days where I just feel like I can't do anything right. I didn't get my omelet. I'm frustrated. I want to shave my head because my ponytail won't get laying right. Like, I've been there. I've had bad hair days. And on those days, I just want to make sure that I'm not alone in it. I want somebody to make sure that they're checking on me in return. And it can be different, but I have people who, if I go too quiet too long, they're like, where are you at? What are you doing? That's something I need to be successful at 100%. Because having somebody check in on that day where you're just having a bad hair day, they will laugh and go, bro, just leave your hair down. Put it in a braid. Let it lay on your shoulder if it won't sit upright. Maybe it doesn't want to. It's tired too. And we joke about my hair having a moment and we move on, right? And it's a very simple thing. And it's probably not even a true thing, not at least in the past 10 years that I can recall. But there are those little small moments in my day where I do call. There are. And I want you to know that that's a normal human thing to need that. We were trained to need that. And it's great to need that. Community makes you stronger. We are stronger together. And when you start burning down those bridges, when you start closing doors, when you don't allow people access because it's not so pretty inside, it starts spilling over into the pretty stuff too. It's just like glitter. Ugly attitude is just as aggressive as glitter if you let it out of the bottle. Welcome, Rob. Rob says good morning. And then he asked the question, have you had days that feel like everyone watch and judge you? All the time. Matter of fact, I show up on purpose for you guys to judge me. I'm hoping I'm getting a gold star, but every week that is exactly what I expect. I jokingly say I blame M&Ms or American Idol. I don't know, chicken or egg, but I just remember that I used to be able to call an 800 number and vote for my favorite color. I've also remember hating American Idol a little bit. And I say that word loosely because it's not real hate, but I was really frustrated with that show and maybe stopped watching it after Chris Daughtry didn't win because I knew he was phenomenal. And he went on and did great things later. But there were a lot of people who didn't like him. And you know what? He didn't stop. And that's the thing. Kim Kardashian is one of my favorite examples to give. Do you know how many people judge her and watch her daily? The whole family. That is the last family reunion I'd ever want to be invited to. With respect. Not because they're not phenomenal humans. Everybody has their own feelings on them. But as a business mogul family, they're hard to compete with. However, just standing next to them, I would be in a spotlight that I am not ready for. Truth be told, right? And so, yes, not only do I feel like I am judged, but I look at others who are amplified at a level that I have not reached, and their children and those people. And I think about what we're subjecting ourselves to by showing up all the time. And the biggest thing is making sure we do it our way, because I don't think I would be talking about them. And sorry, I'm really wanting to choose my words wisely here, but I don't think I would be referencing them or talking about them in such a way if they didn't have the skill set to show up, be professional in spite of, right? We've seen others who have fame, may have overlapped with that family, who did not do as well in the public eye. I don't know what I would do with that kind of notoriety. I don't know how my children would behave if we were constantly under surveillance. I know I've watched famous people do it, right? And so when you take the fame out of it, when you just talk about the humans beyond the titles and the pictures and the magazines and the pay, there's a weight there. And there's a weight for all of us. It could be smaller, it could be the neighbor, it could be the church, it could be your boss or your colleague or your family, or it could be bigger. And it really depends on how you show up for yourself. But that's why it's so important to understand what you're feeling, understand what the ROI is for what you do. Because I promise you, I'm not going to show up and do this if the ROI isn't there. There is no point in painting a target on my back and having people, come and clip little things you're teaching and show up negative just in the energies and just play. I mean, there's stuff I deal with on LinkedIn too, just by being here. There is so much crap I've caught just because I had a positive attitude, and they, said it was toxic to be positive. And I had to fight that too, right? And so I really think fight what you need to. Don't pick up a sword you don't want to. One of my favorite things about the Kardashians is they do not opt into the drama they don't want to cover. They don't want to talk about it. They just don't. You will never get them to have a statement they're not ready to provide, because they have good boundaries for themselves to protect the things they're growing, because they can only control themselves, right? And I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not being paid for this. This is not an endorsement for them, but they are a family I reference often, because if anybody can talk about the big family dynamic, it would be the Kardashians and Melissa Houston. I had 7 aunts and uncles and a million cousins, and I was right in the chaos of it all. I was right in the center of that Venn diagram. And sometimes the way my family handled things was not the way this family handles things. And while they don't do it perfectly, I think there's a lot of grace and class in the way they deal with the social aspect of it all. Because if I were to have to walk in their shoes, I don't know if I could do it the same yet. I would have to learn on the grow. And when I think about the things we've watched through the years with this family, I think it's a perfect example of, I have seen the evolution of Kim. I have seen her go from a teenager who was fighting over Chipotle in an apartment complex, picking up her first really cute car that was expensive, to dealing with her family and her chaos and divorce and all of the things that she's done. And I'm really proud of the way she does it with her head held high, because we can't control who's around us. We can only control how we respond, right? And that comes up in behaviors too. All of this comes back together, and it all overlaps quite a bit. Normalization is quiet. This is something I love so much. I had no plan to bring up the Kardashians, but the fact that it's so public, the fact that it doesn't really hide, the fact that we do address the things when they're bad or don't, right? It really talks. And so normalization is quiet. It sounds like this is just how it is. How many times have you worked for somebody who said, oh, that's just how we do things? It's always been that way. Oh, I hear you. Well, we'll get on it next quarter. Or it's not that bad. I got to tell you that last one gets under my skin. But it is tolerating, right? When we normalize those kind of behaviors, when we have somebody come address it and assess it with us, and they're telling us this is not okay for me, and we say, no, it's okay. It's just how it is. Boys will be boys. There's a lot of times I've heard things that just did not make it okay. Not inside, not at all. And When we allow that behavior, when we go, it's just, and then you mad lib that, fill it in yourself, we're allowing the people who hear it, well, that's just okay. That's just because, that's just something you have to deal with. I don't care how you finish it. If you say that's just, it is tolerance and you're allowing it. My aunt acts that way because she's just old. Oh, that's just how they were raised. Oh, that's just what they thought in their time. That's just what they believed in the 50s. And that's when she was born. I don't care. I don't care. We're not doing that now. Not in front of Melissa, right? That kind of normalization that we're going to invite the creepy uncle, even though we all know he's creepy. Boom, I paused on purpose. Did you hear what I said? As somebody who did background checks for a long time, I can tell you those are the kind of behaviors that can destroy the human. So maybe we talk out loud when we see something we don't like. Maybe we do say, hey, this doesn't feel good. Maybe we stop saying it's not that bad. I was recently talking to somebody who told me that they had been harassed at work by their customer, not anybody I'm working with. But somebody who was just sharing their story with me that they had been harassed, and some colleagues said, hey, you don't need to put up with that. You should probably just talk to the person in charge and let them know and their steps. And they did that. And the boss just kind of pushed back and said, just deal with it. So, it's not that big of a deal kind of vibe. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. If somebody not only felt uncomfortable in the moment, but felt uncomfortable enough to assess it out loud, others were concerned, and it was then brought to you and you dismiss it, that's a problem for me, right? That's normalization. That's that, locker room talk. I'm going to say it out loud. It's my show. What we normalize becomes really problematic really quickly sometimes. I'm looking around right now. Look at how we talk to each other on the internet. Look at how people assess different points of view. And I know Felipe and I banter back and forth on our show, but truth is, when it comes down to serious stuff, if it's really a time to not be that, we're not doing that. And you're never going to see me go be mean on his post. I just won't, right? We have to be careful with how we play just because we don't know where the other person is. A joke today might be fine. In 4 days, if something crazy happens in my life and I'm really, really sad and the same joke comes, it could feel different. Same joke, same person, same delivery, different setting, different mindset, different time. Ooh, I'm knocking things over. I'm talking with my hands, guys. I just want you to think through, what are those things you're normalizing in your life? Aaron says, I find at times that I'm being judged is usually by those with their own securities. And that's 100%, right? Where is it coming from? Why is it coming from? If one of my friends comes to me and says, Melissa, listen, I'm watching this behavior. I'm a little concerned. Cool. If I say, hey, I don't have time to talk right now, but I'll be back, hold your thought. You might be right. And if I'm acting different and I'm busy, they're probably correlated. So just please hold, take a number, be right back. Now, if you come to me and say your behavior is different, and all I do is put a wall up, or I jump in and I get aggressive and I attack, all of these things, right? It's not okay. But if that's how she always is, if you always tell Melissa this and then she always does that, somebody has normalized you behaving that way in your life previously. Me included. If that's me, then somebody has supported that kind of behavior, coddled it, given the kid the candy in spite of the tantrum in the grocery store. That's normalization of a behavior. That's just how the kid is. He always acts that way in the chocolate aisle. Look, my kid wouldn't be allowed to go to the chocolate aisle. I would blindfold my kid and they would have a real fun experience at the grocery store. I may just stop bringing little Bobby if that's how he behaves. I'm certainly not buying chocolate. I don't care. Any of those scenarios, the chocolate's not coming home. Because I'm not going to normalize that connection. I'm not going to make it the standard every time we go somewhere that this is what it's going to be. Ken Dunner says, being positive is so damn delectably, scrumptiously, deliciously, edibly, tasty, good. Ah! And I don't, I used to do heels a lot, but I don't do well in heels anymore. But this right here, Ken says, that's a damn problem. Never normalize inappropriate behaviors. And really, that's true, right? And they can be inappropriate in a lot of ways. They can be inappropriate because you're still allowing yourself that belief system. They can be inappropriate because there's a ripple in your life, even if nobody else is seeing it. A lot of the problem with being a survivor, and I'm going to come to Charles's comment, he says, sadly, survivors wind up normalizing bad behaviors because society doesn't support us. And I would have to say, nay, I'm here supporting right now. I think survivors need to take ownership of the survival. The world is wilderness. And I'm not victim shaming, let me be clear, and I'm not saying it's somebody's fault. I'm not doing any of that, but I do think all humans are capable of taking ownership of their own recovery. I know for a fact, as somebody who watched my mom be a victim to her addiction, she was the only one who could rescue herself in that moment. There were life rafts around her. There were people putting their hands out, but she had to make the choice. There are organizations all over the globe that help survivors in their own way, but you got to find them. Nobody is coming to the house to save you. The only people who do that are the fire department. That's because you called them, right? If you call them, they'll come, but we still have to take responsibility for the reach out. We still have to take responsibility to show up for ourselves or be willing to accept the help. If the fire department comes and you say, no, let my house burn, are they going to save you? I don't know. They might just hose down the neighbors so they don't catch any of it. I don't know. But you have to decide what's allowed, what's not. And if you don't want it anymore, you have to speak up. Even if the boss says this is just how it is, there is another solution there. You either say, no, it's non-negotiable. We're fixing this. This is a problem. It's illegal. It's a this, it's a that. I don't care. Explain why it can't wait. No, it's not okay. No, it is that bad. The fact that you can't tell is the problem, right? Have that conversation, including with yourself. Is your budget out of whack? Is your diet out of whack? Oh, it's not that big of a problem. You're right. It's not that big of a deal to eat an extra candy bar today. But if you eat an extra candy bar every day for 365 days, that's going to have a ripple in your diet. Right? If you sneak seconds once in a while, fine. Thanksgiving, I eat quite a bit on Thanksgiving, not going to lie. But if I eat that way every day, it's going to have an impact. The same with going to the gym. The same with making a little bit of a left turn instead of going straight when you know you need to because you want to cut traffic. And then you do it a few more times and you're miles away from where you started. It takes twice as long to get back. And Ken, I love this comment. And she did. My mom's not with us anymore, but she did get sober at the end of her life. It was kind of forced. She had to go into a hospital setting, but she was sober for 2 years, beyond what was prescribed for her pain management within the doctor system. And it was something that we were able to heal quite a bit. Valid point, but survivors need to feel they can reach out, get adequate support, and be safe. And that's 100% true. And not every organization made me feel that way when I reached out. I had churches I reached out to that actually made me feel more attacked because I wasn't married and I needed help and they were judging. And there's a lot out there, but here's what we always talk about. We can't fix every organization to suit our needs because they're doing their thing too. But what we can do is make sure that they don't hurt us. We can make sure we don't engage with them if we don't align with them. We can ensure that we make our circle move further and further away from them. These are those things that we can do. This is what empowers the victim. This is what gives us our ability to not be stuck, right? You are not stuck. You need an action plan. If this organization doesn't help, we go to the next organization. If the organizations aren't helping, we go to one person we trust who will. There is always a way forward, because maybe I don't know the right person to call because I don't feel like I can trust anybody around me here, but maybe I have one person I can call in the whole world. Maybe I have one person who I listen to on a podcast all the time who says, reach out to me if you need help. And they do. But then the other thing is how do you act with that information? Do you try one time to call the line, it was busy, and you stop, or do you keep calling back? Do you say, oh, that resource doesn't work because I couldn't get through immediately? I left a message, but it's not a resource because, and I'm not saying that's what anybody's doing. But I know sometimes the answer didn't come right away. I knew when I needed housing, for example, I called every day for like 6 months to ask where my name was on the list. I had a plan to bother them until they gave me help. I had a plan to call 5 or 6 agencies the same way, and I did. It was the first one to the line, won my allegiance, right? But when we rely on others to make change for us, that is when we end up stuck. I think Disney, right? Rapunzel was in that tower forever. If you think about the movie Tangled, her hair was so long. She was a baby, then a grown-up. She had all of these birthdays for a decade and a half, a little bit more. She was stuck in a building, never questioning anything. She had something built inside of her, and I don't want to ruin it. If you haven't seen it, it's really not going to maybe hit for you. But the fact is, this girl knew all along that she belonged somewhere else. And it wasn't until somebody else showed up and gave her some hope to get out. But how long did she have it all along, right? We think about Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Glinda tells her at the end, and you've had the power all along, my dear. Girl, please, why didn't you tell me that? But it took her taking the journey to figure it out. And so figuring out where your support is, figuring out what you need when you get supported, because that's the next thing. I can have a genie. I could have 3 wishes, but if I don't know what to wish for, I'm stuck. What happens if you win the lottery and you don't have a plan? You lose every cent. Why? Because if you're not being intentional, anything can happen, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. All that jazz, all of those things I heard growing up, and I kind of rolled my eyes. I even rolled my eyes when I said it. I still don't enjoy them, but is there truth there? Yes. Yes. I have a top 10 list, top 10 qualities I wanted in a partner. And you know what? When I got that list, 18 years, it worked great. There were a lot of things just rocking along. Now, is it perfect? No. There's been a lot of stuff going on. However, 18 years in a relationship, because I had an outline of what I wanted 18 years ago, was very successful. Does my list need to evolve? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that okay? Absolutely. But the intention of crafting that, the intention of knowing that what I wanted 2 decades ago now is not exactly all I need today. And how do I fix that? It's up to me, right? I'm not stuck. I just need to assess, get a plan, and keep moving. And that's something that we always have available to us. Whether it's moving into the fire, moving away from it, we can choose both. And we need to determine, is it going to be good, bad, or ugly? How far is it going to take us from the things we want? High performers track more than KPIs. They slow down. They look at everything they're doing. The things you read, the things you eat, the people you speak to, who you hang out with, where you spend your money. All of it becomes very important when you're operating at a high level. I have a lot of people who would call me a high performer, and I would agree. I'm not trying to be big-headed, but I want to be honest that being me is not an easy thing. It took time to craft the skill sets to pull off what I pull off. I run a business, brick and mortar, for a corporation that's nationwide. We are a top performing store in a lot of ways. My store went from having 14 people at our community events to over 100. And 25, I think, was our biggest. We weren't sure exactly, but good guesstimate. That's a huge increase, right? In just a short time. I do that, which most people have a 9 to 5, whatever, kudos, great, right? But then when I'm done there, or before I even start there, I'm doing coaching today as a matter of fact, I'm going in to run the motorcycle shop when I'm done here, but I'm spending 2 hours mindset coaching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube because I can, and because this is what I do. And then that energy that I'm expelling into the universe is bringing me back more clients. So then I work with people one-on-one and businesses to help with their marketing, their sales, their growth, their mindset, their whatever, right? And I do a little bit of everything because of my experiences in the workplace and what I've done in my career. I can really help in so many ways and so many different types of people. How do I find time for that? Well, I start my day at 4 a.m. By 6 a.m., I'm usually up and ready to go for you guys. The first 2 hours, though, I'm looking at my data. I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks, or I'm reading articles that will increase my value as a coach, as a business leader, as a marketer, as a salesperson, as a mom, as a insert here. It depends on the day, because I am one of those people that quickly assesses where I am right now in this moment to figure out what I need. If I know it's Thanksgiving, Wednesday night before the big day, I might be on YouTube revamping, like, okay, so how many pounds per hour? 20. Okay, 20 minutes a pound. And I'm mathing, right? It's the little things, but if I want to have a wonderful performance on Thanksgiving, Wednesday, I'm doing the prep. And I'm double checking my recipes, and I'm double checking my list, and I'm double checking the pans, and I'm actually putting the ingredients in the pan going, okay, this is the yams, this is the stuffing, do I have it all? And I use that example, not because that's, the big thing, but a lot of people experience that day. They understand, they've seen it in action. Other high performers track their caloric intake, their miles ran, their steps walked, their resistance, their water, their weight, their tone, their BMI, maybe their glucose levels. Like, there are people who get super minute details going about their health because they want high performance from their body. They're athletes. They perform in a different way than I do, so they track different things. When you're a business leader, it's important to track the money. It is. The comings and goings of the financials. But as you get to be a higher performing organization, you start tracking mental health and leadership development and growth opportunities for your team. You start tracking retention. Instead of just who you're onboarding, you're looking at long-term maintenance, right? When you buy a car, you're tracking the prices. You're tracking the best deals, your APR and your finances and your credit score. After, you're tracking your oil changes and your tire rotations. Or you're not. It will become important when it becomes important. And that's the variable. That's the thing that makes people stop. Most of the time, life stops you to change your priorities. Just full stop. Somebody passes away, somebody gets diagnosed, businesses close, life happens. High performers, no, that's just another data set. High performers think in KPIs. High performers will feel life, and they have to live life, and you can't escape the emotional consequences of life, right? But you can track your responses to those moments. You can track how you behave, how long it took you to get back on the horse, what you needed to do so. Whatever those tools were that got you through this moment might get you through the next one, so don't throw them away, keep them, right? We're going to track where we stored them even. We're going to remember what resources we have because they're in our planner, they're in our journal, they're in our wallet. And the more you know what's available to you and how to access it to gap fill the things that are falling and failing, the more you track the recovery efforts and what worked and how quickly, the faster you can do it the next time. It's the difference between, have you guys seen those ads in the the games. I love puzzle games. And so I usually get an ad pop up where it's like, here, fix this house so the kid and the mother don't starve and freeze to death. And you got to like fix the window and use the tape or the glue or the hammer. And they give you all these tools. And then they show you how they pick the wrong thing. They take a hammer to the window and you're like, well, that was dumb. And they're trying to get me frustrated enough to go solve the problem for them by downloading the game and playing it. Strategic. It's great. It's something funny for me to then say they're tracking my frustration. The people who are like me are like, oh my gosh, they can't even figure it out. I wonder how many of us install it and play. And I wonder how many of them are the high performers on the game who have the best scores, who are the most strategic in the most quick fashion. But when you think about it, when you know the solutions, when you know what would work and you see others not doing it, do you help? Because high performers do. That's the other thing. Fantastic track stars, marathon runners, teammates do in sports is they bring others forward. Don't know a ton about it, so I don't want to speak too long, but I remember hearing or reading something about Michael Jordan really pushing his team to be the best they could be while they were on his team with him as a teammate. And I thought, that's pretty cool. When I look around the room at work, at Cycle Gear, where I run the motorcycle shop, I want those people to be their best selves in that room so they can be their best selves when they leave and have harnessed their best potential in that building. Right? To understand their skills, to understand how to track data. One of my favorite things in the world is to teach those young minds how to track and read data and how the data actually correlates. When I can't really get into all the details, but I always tell my team that I want one of our KPIs to be at 25% goal. Corporate has a different number. They have 7.5. That's a huge variable there. It's almost silly to say, what do you mean 4 times? Like I can hear Felipe going, 4 times? You want, or 3-4 times the markup on that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Why? Because there's a formula they're using to calculate it. But I also know there's another circle, another in their Venn diagram of math, they don't tell everybody about. I know that when they do this thing where they take out existing data on the KPI, it shifts the actual true value number. It changes it. And so what I know on the back end is that 7.5 they're asking for should be 25% on the front end in my store to hit 7.5 once it washes. How do I know that? Because I watched the data. I was able to say, wait a minute, we're hitting this. Why didn't we hit that? Wait a minute, I thought it was at this. Why does it look like this? And I was able to figure out where the data was incorrect or shifting or lacking or whatever that was in the moment, and then assess for that, right? If it's always $60 to pay a bill, but you always have to pay a $3.50 fee to pay the bill, it's not really $60 bill. If you call it a $65 bill, all of a sudden you do have a little bit left over. But if you think it's 60, you're always going to come up a little bit short in your budget because you're not equating for that, right? You're not adding that. You're not looking at that street. You're taking a little bit to the left of the path you were supposed to be on and how much that will cost you over time. Are you still with me? Am I talking too much? Where are you? What are you learning in this moment, guys? I would love to know what you're thinking. Emotions are data points. Frustration repeated, avoidance repeated, conflict repeated. Let's be honest, guys. We've heard it, right? There's marketing that says women have certain times of the month they feel certain emotions a little more than others. I'm not going to comment on that. As a woman, I can say I have data points. I can tell you 3 days before my body is going to be really mean to me that it's coming because I'm not as patient. My hair might frustrate me. Maybe it's just I realize I want to eat and I'm full and I just had food, but I'm still not satisfied. There's something inside that's just growling for more, but I don't need it. For me, emotions and wanting to eat are often tied together. It's something I learned about myself early. So when I get emotional or when I start wanting to eat more than my portion, That's a data point for me. There's something there. That's a hint. That's a clue. It's like a Blue's Clue, Scooby-Doo style. Come on, gang. We got to figure it out. If every time I talk to a certain person, I get upset, I need to understand why I get upset. Is it because they just pointed out my bank statement to me as my accountant and I'm upset at me because I spent more than I should have, maybe, right? Is it because somebody pointed to the tire on my car that I was getting ready to pull out of the parking lot, and now all of a sudden I'm crying because there's a flat tire? I don't know. I'm just trying to think about emotional things, right? Maybe you're frustrated because you went to throw something away and you realize you can't put another thing in the trash can because the person whose job it was to take out the trash didn't do their job. There's a frustration there. Why is that person avoiding the trash? There's an emotion behind that avoidance. There's a reason their body didn't just say, sure, and get it done. Is it the same argument over the same trash? What is the problem here? When is it going to pop? When is that going to change? You want to be in the green at all times. Business, life, emotions, mindset. You don't want to be red, right? There's no good there. But it happens. And there's reasons it comes up, and we have to assess what that is. If you know the first half of the month is always the heavy time for finances and the second half is always the easier time, plan. When you have a little extra on the second half, put it in the bank for the first half of the month. Shift, prepare, prevent, stop, drop, roll. It's really red light, green light, guys. This is stuff that we understand, but when you're starting to feel outside of a way you want to, you need to assess why. If there's an ache in your knee, you need to understand why the knee is achy. Was it because you sat weird? Stop sitting like that. Was it because you ran too much without support? Get support. Was it because somebody, accidentally fell on you or you fell? Stop falling. What made you fall? Let's move the thing. Right? We have to assess to address, and we have to address it to change it. You really want to avoid something, prevent the issue. That's the best way to avoid the problem, is to prevent it. All right. Track it, study it, grow. Track, study, go. I always say slow down to speed up. We need to slow down, come to a stop, right? Red light. Figure out what we're up to. Figure out why we do the things we do, what is important, what can stay, what must go. When we have these conversations with ourselves, one, we're not going to be blindsided by our own behaviors. We're not going to be the people who have to assess where we went wrong every time. When we get in the habit of pausing to reflect on a moment, a day, and you really need to set your timeline. I like to do a morning check-in with myself. I like to do an afternoon check-in, and I like an evening. Now, when I set these timelines, I do it because I have certain things I get done at different times a day. In the morning is the time from 4 to 6, whatever time I wake up in that window, where I set my to-do list. And I make sure we're setting it then, because if I wake up at 5:55, I have less time for me to do the things I'd want to do for coaching, visuals, build out, shows, whatever it is. Now, I'm not angry at myself for not doing it. If I needed the sleep, I'm taking the sleep. That's part of the schedule for the yes. At night, when I'm sleeping, it gets priority. And when I'm up, I'm up. I do have a hard stop for how long I can sleep every night. There is an alarm for that. Those are boundaries. But then I monitor. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I need to make today a lighter day. So I have 3 to-do lists. Today's, which is within the next 24 hours. This week, which is a 7-day period. And then after. I use those 3 because if I do it that way, I give myself the grace to tackle today to the best of my ability. I try to put 3 items on today's list. Usually every item that I need to do will create its own little to-do list. Everybody, when I show up at the bank and say I need to open an account, they'll have their own little syllabus for me to do. If I say I need to establish a business or my LLC, they're going to have a to-do list for me. And so I try to keep my to-do list a little smaller just in case others need to add. I want to be successful in mine, and I need to leave room for the extra things that might come from it. Then this week, if I know that I have a ton to get done this week, I want to break it down into bite-sized chunks. I want to try to figure out what it looks like. So I need to plan a little bit in advance. Maybe it's as simple as we're going on vacation this weekend. We're cleaning up the garage. We have these sporting events and we still have to do the grocery shopping, and we still have this thing at 4:00 on Sunday. Great. And then the after, the dream of retirement, the dream of painting the garage instead of just cleaning it out. Insert here, right? It can be a decade from now. It could be 10 minutes after 7 days is up. Doesn't matter. It goes on that list. Every day when I wake up, I look at them. Sometimes it's mentally because I know I've been repeating 1 or 2 of them in my head. Sometimes I have to actually get the paper out and look at it because the lists are growing. And then I assess what I can do that day. Same rules every day. You can always finish today's list early. If I say I just want to load the dishwasher and do the laundry and check the mail, super easy to add more from this week. I can dive into this week's list at any time. That's fantastic. But I don't have the pressure to do it if I need the day off. Maybe I need a rest day. Maybe I don't want to add more. And so it gives me the option to choose. No pressure. Still getting results done. Still knowing it's looming, but not feeling the pressure of you must. How do you guys work your to-do list? How often do you check in on it? Is it daily, hourly, monthly, weekly? Everybody has their own. Some of them don't write them down. Some of them keep them mentally. Others put it in a phone. Others put it on paper. How do you most successfully track yours? And then how often do you go back to those lists? Because something I will say I've learned about myself is I am a big fan of forgetting my planners. I will have multiple books. I can sit down once a week and go through them all, and I'll see notes. And it really became a problem for me. So what I started to do was change the way my notebooks looked. I very much enjoy pages that I can take out and put back in a planner. Happy Planner is a company that got me aware, made me aware of this. And I use that for my own systems now. What I love is no matter what planner I grab, I can just jot on. If I need to just hurry, I don't need to worry about which one I'm grabbing from. But then I can take that page out if it's in the wrong book and move it to the right book. It helped me to not be angry at myself for not being as organized as I want to be on the go by just having a way that when I sit down to look at my to-do list, that I can compile it all together without ruining the book or having to scribble a bunch of stuff out or ripping pages out. I just gently slide them into the next. Small, silly even in some ways. People are like, just have one. Don't get, I told you I was a little spicy. I can't. I have my plan. And it works great until it doesn't. And so how do you overcome it? When you study your behaviors, you can learn how to not just track them, but overcome the bad, reinforce the good. You got to figure out you. When I think about the school system, right, one of the best things teachers would do is take the time to figure out the students so they knew what would motivate each one. Because if you just had the same prize for everybody, it's not going to work. What we all get excited about looks a little bit different depending on who we are and where we are in life. And so even understanding oneself, what motivates me, what my special rewards are for getting my job done may not be the same for you. And if you don't understand yourself, how are you ever going to motivate yourself? How are you ever going to reward yourself or explain yourself to somebody else? How much of that do you need to understand to be able to share yourself or your journey with others? It comes back to a lot of self-assessment, right? And as somebody who has survived quite a bit of trauma in my lifetime, there's a lot of blame and questioning and trying to understand who you are. To be honest, this hit me a lot when I was thinking about the pressure of this statement and really how this applies to all facets of life. There were times in my life where it was just repeating behaviors of, we have to move again. I have to start a new school. Um, I had so many schools in elementary school. I don't know how many I went to be honest with you. I know there were so many in one school year. I feel like I went to every school in the district in elementary. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm not very far off. Genuinely, it was just so much transition. And why? Right? I wish I could ask my mom. I never got to this conversation between us before she was gone, but what was her life that this repeating pattern kept happening? It wasn't random. There was something happening there. Now, if I had to guess as a coach and a consultant who, was around, but not the grown up in the room at the time, I'm guessing it was her line of work. Waitress is very feast or famine kind of stuff. You either have a really good day or you don't. Weekends make the most money. And if the weekend's not as good as you hoped, you can really set yourself up for failure. And then those paychecks, I think my mom was making $2.13 an hour for her wages, less than $100 a week to be there. So it was tips, right? And I think that could have been it. That wasn't random. It was poor budgeting. My mom was always really bad at budgeting, which is why, no offense to her, all respect, but it was something that I watched as a pattern. And as I became a teenager, it got to the point where I was just endorsing my checks to my landlord and I was paying our rent. So I really started assessing what was happening because, excuse me, I was working, but I wasn't reaping rewards and I wanted to change that. It didn't feel right. And so then if you're paying for things you really don't want to be paying for, first thing you do is assess, well, what are we buying? Where is the money actually going? For me, it was to my mom's addiction. That's where her money went. And so, not random. And the more that I paid attention to it, documented even mentally, right? Just taking mental notes of behaviors I'm watching, the easier it was to identify that was what was happening. That, in fact, where we were was in a pattern that needed to stop. And I couldn't stay and fix it. That was one of those things that I love about the assessment portion, as bad as it could be in the moment you're assessing, as heavy as that life was for me at 16. I was able to pause, reflect, and then decide how to get out of it. If I keep making a left turn over and over and over, at some point, I'm going to get really sick of the scenery I'm seeing. I'm going to have to decide when and how to turn. And if you go around in a circle enough, you will know which street looked the best in that circle. I mean, you will learn more as you go. Maybe one's brighter, well lit, one's paved, one's not. The more you do that donut in that little roundabout to decide what your next path is, the more clear you get. Even if it looks like you're not moving anywhere, you are, as long as you're assessing. And so don't be stuck, right? We're gonna go back through some of this messaging here because I want you to hear me when I say this. You are not stuck. You need an action plan. Doing that circle is an assessment zone. All great, like I always go to Jason Bourne, right? All of these secret agents and all of these really high-performing humans that do their thing. They have a plan. The Olympics are happening. Do you know how many people on those teams waste time? Like, how much time do you think they waste in a day? Versus how much time of their day is planned to the minute? If you think about what it takes to perform, right? It makes me think of Eric Thomas. Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. right? Everybody wants to go be famous. Everybody wants to be Kim Kardashian until they realize what she goes through to be Kim. Jim Carrey is one of the highest paid actors that was in Hollywood, just killing it, right? But when you look at The Grinch, we didn't really love the results according to all of the reviews out there. And he suffered through that movie. Was the ROI there for him? No. Was it there for us? I don't know. Some say yes, some say no. I think there's a burnt toast effect, and I want to give my daughter a shout out because she's the one who brought this back to me. There's a reason you never know what you might have missed because of that burnt toast, because that extra 2 minutes you have to take to remake the toast may have saved your life, may have stopped you from being part. There was this ripple about to happen you don't even know. And so I can't say doing the Grinch did or did not have a ripple. Of course it did. But think of those things in our life where we like pushed through, we didn't really like, and it didn't turn out the way we hoped. It wasn't delivering the return. It wasn't worth it in the long run, and you would never repeat it again. Your patterns are leaving clues, guys. Your calendar will tell me what you're up to. One of my favorite things to do as a coach is to say, let me see what you got on your calendar. Can we talk about it? What do you got planned this week? Very first question when you're coaching with me, when I call for an accountability, is what's going on this week? What do you got? And I listen for the emotions behind it. I listen for the hesitation. I listen for the determination. I listen for the plan. I listen for the lack of plan and the reason given, because there's always that correlation. It's an accountability call. So they know, not only do I want to know what the plan is, but if you say there's no plan, my eyebrow is asking you, did you say what I just think I heard? And then they say, and this is why, right? When I'm listening to the emotion of the why is when I know where we are. There's a pattern if it keeps replicating. If every week I hear the same excuses, same emotion, there's questions that are going to come up, because my job is to take those clues and help you sort the problem, to create the puzzle, to put it together with you, to take that missing piece that you've been looking for and you just can't figure out and rotate it with you, to turn the cup, perspective. But the only way I can do that is to check your energy levels when we're doing the accountability, to see how your relationships around you are being handled. Because I can be honest with you. You can tell me you are the best thing since sliced bread. You can tell me that Betty White would be jealous to be and want to be you when she grows up. And I would believe you while I monitor what you just said. You tell me it's the best pasta in the world, I want to taste it. The next thing I'm going to do is say, great. Here's the problem with Melissa is not only am I a coach, but I did background checks for a decade. So as much as I want to trust everybody, I just like to see it on paper too, please. That document, then act, also comes in contract form. It comes in, let me see what you just said out loud, because I know what salespeople say, and then I know what I see on the paperwork. Right? And that's not a bad thing, but I want to see the receipts, because they tell us more than we think we know. I think I'm good at handling money. And then the bank, you log in and maybe you see, hey, this is what happened. I think I'm good at budgeting for my calories, and then Chocolate Cakes walks into the room without permission. I think I'm insert here. If your relationships are faltering around you, your behaviors, that aunt that always is poking, or the husband and wife who fight over the trash, or the teenager who's always upset on Thursday night because they can't go out Friday because they didn't do their chores, but they want to go out now. The patterns of behavior are there, and there's clues. Have you ever told a teenager, hey, do you realize we do this every week? That every week you're mad at me on Thursday night because I'm not letting you go out on Friday because you didn't do your chores Monday through Thursday? Or, hey, you're angry, you're grounded, and you want to do all these things, but you knew this was the requirement. Have you decided to change the behavior so you can go? I don't want to hold you here either. And give that clarity. Tell them what you see. So maybe if they don't see the big picture of the puzzle, you can share that perspective as a leader. It's not just ourselves we need to assess, but the people around us. If your spouse comes home and after work, like the first 30 minutes, they're kind of just Oscar the Grouch, Mr. Grumpy Pants, Mrs. Grumpy, whatever. Do you give them the space to unwind? Do you help them have that time protected so they can put that away before it becomes a pattern of behavior you have to assess within your own relationship? What about work? The coworker who always gives you attitude when she walks in, but it has nothing to do with the energy they feel in the room of you talking about how they're going to walk in and what they walk into every day. Chicken or egg, right? There's so many facets of life you have to assess from your side. And then put in perspective that if you feel these things, you must allow them to have the space to probably have some feelings, emotions, response, and behaviors happening outside of this environment as well. If you tell me, but I'm going through a lot here, but you don't care that Jane is also going through a lot over there, I'm going to be less likely to listen to your problems also. We're going to just say, you know what, then if Jane can't feel this, I really don't see why you have the space. I'm going to call you out. Why should you be allowed to process, but Jane can't? And is that part of the problem? Now, that's hard when I walk into a business environment to do that, right? I'm being paid usually by the leader, and then I'm telling the leader exactly what I just said. But if you don't have the honest conversations, you're going to end up with a pattern of behavior. Everything is a pattern. It could be years later. It could be a pattern of success. It could be nothing but up, but it's a pattern nonetheless. It's a data trend. There are behaviors you create within your life that create your success or not, right? And when you think about your emotions, when you think about your finances, is it the finances create the emotions? Do the emotions create the finances? Are you an emotional spender? Are you a reactive buyer? When you watch the Super Bowl, would it be wise to freeze your debit card so you don't click buy now because you're so easily swayed by good marketing? Do you get mad at the salesperson when you leave the store because you bought something you didn't want? Have you ever had anybody force you into something you didn't want to do? And then did you return to those same people? Did you opt into that frustration? Did you tell people you were frustrated? This is a huge one for me too. When I express my emotions, when I tell people how I feel, whether I'm frustrated, whether there's a conflict, how they respond is also data. If I set a boundary because I'm hurt, upset, not feeling well about how it's going currently for whatever reason, and it creates negative emotions from the person who has this boundary set, that's data. Everybody has to decide what to do with their own data. I'm not going to tell you what the data means for you unless you sit down with me and coach, because I don't know unless I really know you. Because if I say, oh, wow, you had a 2,000 calorie lunch, for one person, that sounds like the full meal of the day and that's it. And oh my gosh, you overate. Why would you eat that many calories? For Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that's the midday snack and he has like 8 of them or something. I don't know. I'm not actually quoting facts here. I just need to be clear. Off the cuff, though, I know he eats more than the average person. And so if I'm looking at a menu for those 2 humans that I just referred to, right, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and then maybe a supermodel who's trying to be on the cover of Vogue, completely different mindsets on the data. Different behaviors in their lives, different patterns, different goals, have that data looking differently for them. Where the Rock would celebrate a 2,000 calorie lunch probably, especially if it was, articulated the way he does his meals. And The model, maybe not so much. Maybe she would be upset at herself for that kind of calorie intake. I don't know. Same with cutting weight, right? Fighters do it often. They bulk up and then they have to drop weight just to get into the class. It's not healthy, in my opinion. But for a weight person, somebody doing that kind of lifting or performing or training and development, whatever it is, it's good for them. So I have to talk to them to understand, because I can't make a rash decision. I could hear somebody's not eating, right? And there's a lot behind that kind of comment. I could say they're not eating, and if you say it in a hospital setting, it might feel a little different than if I just say it during a busy lunch at a retail environment where, they're just going to opt in for a Red Bull. It might be different if it's somebody who's struggling with a weight identity issue, like, bulimia or anorexia, versus somebody who's fasting for faith, or in their window of, I eat what I want for 4 hours a day, but then I fast the other time. A different mindset. I can't assess just because what I heard is what I heard. I don't know anything yet. You can tell me the sky is blue. I don't know what shade. I don't know where you're looking at it from. I don't know where the sun is against the blue, right? There's a lot of extra things we can talk about. Now, what's contrasting the blue? Is it trees? Is it cactus? Is it ocean? Is it mountains? And I will tell you, I'm not a fan at all of applying a solution without assessing. Because, like I said, if you just hear, oh, well, they're spending, $10,000 a day because they're sad, that could sound terrible to a financial planner. Now, if I know you're grieving and you're spending $10,000 a day for 3 days to cover final expenses and travel and family, and that sounds different. What if you're spending $10,000 a day to travel with the family because you are sad, but you're going all over the world and, taking photos with mom's ashes or something? I don't know. It's a plan I kind of had in my head. There are different ways to look at it, and it's all perspective. You have to track how you feel. You have to track what the moment is. You have to track why you're spending. Because just saying I was spending doesn't make sense to a financial planner. But if you can put some things behind it, like I was spending, but I spent $50,000 on stocks to invest. I was spending, but I bought a new home. I was spending, but that $50,000 went on a blackjack table. Completely different conversations. And so if I just judge you for spending, where's the real data? Right? And so make sure that your emotions are tied to data, and make sure that there's value there. Because we can get emotional about these things, but what is the value in expressing emotions that are not going to bring results? How do you express those emotions? If you're hungry and you're 2 years old and maybe aren't ready to use your words, you might be flailing and screaming and crying and kicking and tossing yourself all over the room. You can't say, I'm hungry and tired and just want a nap. There's data there. And if you start seeing this behavior every time at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you should probably have lunch at 1 and then a nap shortly after, so we prevent the 2 o'clock breakdown, right? It becomes simple if you just think of it in terms of, once I understand it, I can fix it. Once you know where the bleed comes from, you can stop it. And once you stop it, then you can solve it. Are you guys with me? If you want to join the stage, I have a few minutes. I would love to hear if anything is coming up for you. I do just want to remind you, though, you decide when you are ready. Because nobody can come save you unless you give them permission. We can assess data, but we can't really do the work without you if you come to us. And I say that as a coach because it's really hard to help when people aren't ready. You can say you want accountability, but if you don't respond to the text, if you don't answer the phone, I can't make you more accountable. It's called stalking at some point. However, when you know you're ready, you accept that accountability. It's very much like I want to be at the gym, so I have a gym membership. But you're not going automatically, right? It's something you have to decide to do. Even when you have it, you have to decide to use it. You can have Netflix all month long. You can have Amazon Prime all month long. But if you never open the apps to stream, nobody's going to make you. The problem is that time is not your friend. Ever. It's one of those creepy little things in the back that's just taken away without permission. It's data that's fleeting every second you're losing it. If you think of it as a drip, it really becomes kind of daunting to know, hey, there's an end to what's in that cup, and once it's gone, I don't get to sip anymore. And I don't know where this drip's coming from, but I need to get going. And it's that thing you can't stop. But what you can do is optimize every bit of what you have. If there's a leak in your cup and time goes away because of something you don't want, the person who wastes your time without permission, the person who shows up uninvited, the person who comes to the DMs just to be whatever, I don't know, Petty Betty came to my brain first, but what is your DM filled with? Is it spam? Block them. Is it Aunt so-and-so telling you, you would be so great if you could just do this? Block them if you have to, or tell them, please stop doing this. This is not what I use this platform for. You can change how they access you. Put them on mute. Don't even read it. They may stop sending it, and I hate that being a recommendation, but I also hate to think that you would put yourself through something that makes you miserable for somebody who's not ready to accept responsibility for their actions. And the truth is, you taking that from them is you accepting it. And so if you're accepting that, I don't want to hear complaints, because you have to be responsible for where you draw your lines. And that comes back to the stop and go, track or deal with it, right? Like you're either, and I'm going to go just track or tolerate. You get to decide to either assess it, address it, and move on, or keep repeating it. It's very much the Groundhog Day of life. If you're not in charge of how your day goes, who is? Who's in charge of your life? I'll be honest, for me, it's me. I allow people some grace. I allow people some wiggle room. I allow people to hold the mic. But ultimately, when it stops feeling great, I stop it. It's just who I am as a person. I cannot allow any more of my time to be affected by people who make me not feel good when they're close. If I feel people reach beyond my boundary and make me uncomfortable, I immediately let them know that's where I am, because I used to live in a space where I couldn't speak up. I didn't speak up. I don't want to say I couldn't. I should have. But I didn't feel I could. And it wasn't for years that I did. And I was a kid and I just didn't have my voice yet. And I won't do that again. And as a matter of fact, as I used my voice, others learned that it's okay to use theirs. It's happened my entire life. And I was aware of that skill, that Melissa's loud and she's a little bit, different than the rest. And she can't help but give you eyebrows when you say something silly. And she will be the only one who will raise her hand and tell the teacher, no, that's not correct. That doesn't math for me. I don't understand what you just said. Can I ask some questions? And there were teachers who would get upset at me because what I was asking was a question that they didn't have an answer to, or they weren't sure how to answer it, because truth be told, they were given a syllabus and told what to teach. It wasn't theirs. It was something somebody else crafted. They weren't fully invested in. They had a to-do list. They had homework, and their job was to execute it, whether they liked it or not. And I could tell he didn't like it. And the reason I know this, and I'm going to speak confidently about it, is because we were in an English class and we had an assignment of reading the written works of somebody who's been gone a long time, right? And I was asked, the whole room was asked, what does this mean to you? And I shared what it meant to me. And he said, no, that's not right. And then my face cracked because what do you mean it's not right? How are you going to tell me what it means to me? Just because it doesn't match what your book told you I should have said doesn't mean it doesn't overlap. How do you know? Did you talk to Bob who wrote the poem, or is that something your boss told you to tell me? I asked the question. Why? Not to be disrespectful, but because I felt disrespected. I was given the microphone and asked to share what I felt, what it meant to me, and then I was told it was wrong. Those kind of things bothered me, and I spoke up, and I realized when I spoke up about it, others sat up a little straighter in a room where they didn't feel confident either. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting with all of the managers from work of our district and my boss and the vice president of our company, the retail side. And we were talking about some of our performance stuff. And he gave one of the other managers kind of a free pass on something that wasn't 100% yet. And that's something I focus on growing for our district. So I was like, excuse me, I'm going to have to argue with you, Mr. VP, because he better do that job. He better fix that problem. We're not giving any free passes around here. And I said it with a smile. But I spoke up because I didn't want our team to hear permission to not push, to not try, to not strive, to not do the thing we already assessed because we track, because we understand. We're not going to tolerate it. And it was so perfectly timed because it wasn't the reason for the show at all. But it was one of those moments where I really got to put my money where my mouth was and live that moment. Now, I say this just to give this person a shout out. Last night, before the end of the same day, that person executed. They got it done. They hit the mark. And not taking any excuses that morning. I don't know if that was the ripple. I don't. But I know that the energy in that room in front of that VP, the person who I'm arguing with, and he was like, well, this is fun. I'm going to argue with you in front of everybody. But there was respect and just like, wow, I like the teeth in this district. I like that accountability. And of course, I'm smiling as an accountability person because that's what I do. But we don't tolerate things that we know we can control because we already have to tolerate enough of the things we can't, guys. And that's really the message. I'm not telling you you're going to prevent everything. I'm not. I never in my life would I say that. Never in my life would I say everything is going to be perfect and easy and it's going to be, shiny and rainbows and sunshines and stuff all the time. But I will tell you, you can improve it all the time. You have the choice to improve it at any moment, whether it's your mindset, your plan, your company, the music, the food choice, like whatever it is. I don't care what small thing you can improve, make it better. And then do the next small thing. And then the next small thing. And every time you do something small to be successful to improve it, you're going to get reinforced behaviors. And those checked boxes really build, right? You're going to start having new patterns every day. You can repeat the good stuff. If it's repeating, it's not random, it's worth recording. That can be true for the positives. It doesn't have to all be the negative stuff. And if you've held on this long, I'm really glad you're still here because this is the message I really want you to understand. It always looks really bad at first. As soon as you walk in the garage to start cleaning, it's going to get way worse before it gets better. You're going to have to tear that thing apart to put it back together. But once you do, you've accomplished it. It looks great. You have a better workspace. Now you can do the next thing, right? And you have a pattern of behaviors of, I like to start at this time. I like to finish at this time. And as you learn how you work and you learn where you do your best work and you learn what doesn't work so well for you, you can assess that and you get better and faster every time. And soon it snowballs. Just taking out the trash can turn into a clean house over time. One thing a day, right? Having a small rule of, okay, I can't go to bed with a full trash. My wife will, want to wake up and clean the house, and she's up before me. And if I have that trash full, it's going to slow her process of enjoyment. And that's really a truth for me, guys. I hate taking out the trash, mostly because I like to do inside housework. And when I go outside, I can get really cold. In the Pacific Northwest, arthritis, you freeze up. There's like some medical stuff going on. But also in the morning, when I first wake up, I don't want to go outside, but I do want to clean up the house a little bit, tidy, sanitize, spray things down. And I really like to be able to just keep going when I start. So I don't want to stop to take the trash. I don't want to stop to, do something outside of those normal routines my body wants to do at that time. Now, that's a repeated behavior I've learned about myself. I learned it watching my grandmother. When she woke up and did her coffee, she'd wipe down her counters, make sure they were sanitized. She would make her toast. She'd sit down with coffee and toast and watch her Hallmark channel in a clean house. I loved it. These are things I know I want to do. If I know them, I can create the pattern space, right? I can create the time. Every morning I give myself 2 hours without you guys. No offense. But when do I fill my cup if I don't have that space? It's not random that I wake up early. It's worth repeating. Because when I get up and start recording those behaviors and thoughts and minds and, even doing the puzzle games on LinkedIn, there's a pattern there. I get to say I'm number one on LinkedIn in a lot of ways, a lot of times. Top 5, right? I see 100 of my friends or connections are playing on LinkedIn and I'm in the top spot. That makes me feel pretty good. It's worth repeating. It's not random. It's worth recording. So I screenshot that stuff. Okay. It's not just the bad. And then in a year, when I see my score, I'll remember what it was. And have I increased? Have I decreased? Am I growing? Am I failing? Am I flailing? Is it changing? And what do I do about it? Track it, study it, grow. You can be anything you set your mind to if you put a plan together. If you don't give up, if you assess your behaviors and then alter course if it's not working. You can hit the same tree in the same spot over and over. And they say, if you just do that, it'll fall. That's true unless you found the one knot in the tree that won't let you get through. So if you never assess what you're chopping at, if you never look at how much work you're getting in, if you never see how any ROI in that spot, you should study it. You should assess it. You should slow down just slightly. Just take your foot off the gas a little bit and assess where we're going. Are we going to keep going or are we going to stop? It's a study time. It's that yellow light. We're not sure. Should we go? Should we stop? Should we go? Should we stop? If you see the knot in the tree, you stop. You take a right turn around the tree and then you start again. Then you go. After the pause, red light, green light. Does this resonate with you guys? Is there anything in your brain right now that you're like, yep, I need to red light that. I need to green light this. Those are the things I want you to write down right now. Jay says, my relations break easily when someone treats me with disrespect or swears at me. That's a boundary. Do you tell that to people when you meet them? Right? That's something that I would ask next. I appreciate boundaries. How do you communicate your boundary? When? What does it look like? That comes back to this too. You decide when you're ready to. Sometimes I don't want to come out and be like, listen, this is who I am and these are all my boundaries and you better respect it. And here's like a list. I printed it, laminated it, put it in your pocket. That doesn't really work for me either. But if somebody says, hey, I don't do well with loud noises, is it cool if we kind of just hang out in a quieter space? That person doesn't have to tell me I don't like yelling. That's already established. They've also asked for a solution. It's not just a warning. It is we need to be proactively solving for this. There's value in that communication, right? And so I want you to think about it. If you are setting a boundary, if you are setting a standard, if you are watching your calories, do you have a sign on the fridge going, you are calorie watching? Where are you with your count before you open the door? You know, like you can give yourself a directive. Check your numbers before you open this door. Check your bank account before you spend. Check your pending transactions. Check your budget. Make sure all of it has washed before you decide that this is available. Before you book this, do this. Before you call so-and-so, make sure this is ready. If you call your accountant without your spreadsheets available, they're probably not happy, right? And if you know that happens every time you call, can you please take 10 more minutes before the call to open those spreadsheets so they're not waiting for your internet? Especially if you're paying them by the hour, guys. If you're not ready, it's going to cost you. It doesn't matter what you're up to. There is always a cost because that time is valuable. It's priceless. It doesn't come back. It's dripping away all the time. And I got to be honest, if my clients show up and they're not ready, it drives me nuts. If I hear, okay, hold on, don't repeat that to me. I'm holding. Stop telling me to hold on. You hold on. Why aren't you ready? You knew this was coming. Hold on. Why am I struggling right now to get you to do the thing you knew was coming? Let's talk about that before we even proceed. Why aren't you ready? What did you do differently this week? Or what could you have done differently to prepare better? Because as a coach, I can't just accept the action. I have to assess it with you. I have to tell you what I see that may make you fall later, because I'm not always going to be the coach. My job, especially as a coach, is to come in and help you figure out how to play, how to get the goal, how to get across the finish line in whatever sense that is for you. But then my other job is to teach you how to hold yourself accountable, because if I get transferred to a new squad, if you move to a new building, maybe you get promoted outside. I've had people that were trained by me get promoted to other locations. Do you have the skills to hold yourself to that same standard there? Or did you need me the whole time? Because I don't understand coaching with somebody forever. I don't. Especially on the same topic. If you're coaching with me on the same things, we've failed each other. We should have new problems. If you come to me as a startup dreamer who wants to start your own business, cool, let's get those goals accomplished. But in a year, you better not still be startup mentality. You may still be acting on some startup behaviors, right? You're still building, you're still back building, you're still diversified in how you're trying to move and testing. But we have contracts to worry about. We need to make sure legally, we need to make sure we're paying this. We need to make sure that we're growing that. The to-do list should change. It should not be the same thing every time. It shouldn't. And if it is, where's the evolution? Even with your gym membership, if you only go and do one thing when you go, the results will vary in body parts, right? You might have a very strong upper body, but you're going to have chicken legs. Maybe you're going to have the strongest legs ever, but you're not going to be able to open a jar of pickles. Maybe you can lift all the weight in the world, but you can't run to save your life. If that's the goal, great. But are you sure? Are you assessing your actions enough? You can be successful in business and lose your family. You can be successful with your family and lose your career. How often do you assess it all? Guys, I just have to say, I love this topic. I didn't know if I was going to be able to talk about it all this time. But I'm excited you came. I'm excited you joined. I love this. Stephen says, I communicate my boundaries as early and realistically as I can. Needs to be in the right context. I make sure I have a solution ready for the listener when I communicate. I love that. If you come to me and say, hey, the water's leaking in the bathroom. So I shut off the water and I assess that there's a broken pipe. That is the best day ever. Now, if you don't know how to do those things, fine. That's when I come in. But the next time you have a water leak, I hope you watched what I did in the response and you documented it and you took those tools and you put them in your pocket. Because if you're on LinkedIn, that's really what you should be doing, right? You're going to write your story either way. I say it all the time. You're either going to take the pen and write your story, or you're going to let somebody else do it. Either you're going to respond to your emergencies or somebody else is. And nobody's promising to always be there. Even 911 requires you call them. Did you hear what I said? Even 911 requires a phone call. Batman came with a signal. Who's your superhero and how does that work? Let's be honest with ourselves. Who's going to come to save you if it's not you? Who's going to change your life if it's not you? Who's going to take good care of you if it's not you first? We set standards for ourselves and others. How we move is how people will move around us. If you disrespect yourself, you will be disrespected. If you respect yourself, you will not allow for less than respect. You will move away from it, and so people will have no choice but to either respect you or not. You get to determine how that works. So make sure you're making the right choices. Guys, if you need help, if you want a coach, if you want somebody who's going to help you assess where you're at and where you need to go next, I would love to chat. It's really all encompassing. I've done it all. I've done the startup thing numerous times. I've done leadership development through my entire career. My career started as a salesperson, door to door, and it has evolved. I've run businesses for the owners. They handed me the keys and let me just do the thing, and it worked great until the owners passed away. So the owner, let me say that, owner, just think about where you want to go. If you need help, I'm here. If you've got this, if you know who you are and what you want to do, and you just need to sit down and write it out so you don't forget, do that. Get to work. It's time. It is 2026, and I was thinking about it last night. We're 2 months in, like a month and a half in. We're looking at fiscal year, and wow, it's going so fast. So just remember, you think you have time, but you don't. It goes faster than we could ever plan for it to go. If you're ready now, get started now. And if you're not, figure out what it's going to take. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, will you do that real quick? Can you just go over there, figure it out? I would love for us to be friends on all of the platforms I'm on. But YouTube is the one that will host it forever. And like I said, I'm going to get some shorts over there and upload and just really gap fill. If you like the show, buy me a coffee. Just go ahead, feel free. You can come back, pause it, scan it, get over there. It'll be cool. I would appreciate it. I am looking forward to seeing you guys again next week. But for now, I want to leave you with a little dance out. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get the song in. But you guys, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing. If something resonated with you, feel free to give me a DM. Tell me what it was. You don't have to put it in the comments. If you want to put it in the comments, put it there. But I hope you come back next week. If you have a topic you want me to cover, let me know. If you have a topic Felipe and I should cover in the Careers, Chaos, and Coaching next week, let us know. We have some ideas, but we would love to hear from you. And then don't forget, today we do have Felipe live with his friends on Social Saturday Chat, which I really like to listen to on my way to work. So make sure you don't miss it. But just take care of yourselves, guys. Just know that every day is a new day, and yesterday could have sucked. It doesn't mean today has to. You could bring yesterday in if you want, but it's really up to you how you play. And you get to decide what you're focused on and when. And so make good choices. Talk to you next time.
Sunlight creeps through my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. just like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup was a whisper. Conversations open door. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing. Pour another cup of cheer. Every thought